So this is the 2016 WRX door panel. We're going to show you how to remove the switch and the door handle area assembly. First, you want to start by removing these two screws here. There's going to be like a little rubber plate, a little rubber gasket, kind of, that's on the.
That's for these.
Yep, let's set that off to the side. It just pulls up and out. There you are. Door handle removal. Next is the switch. So you got a screw in that top corner there. You got a screw down here. Remove both those, and you're going to take a flathead. You got these little clips here. Doesn't take too much. Now, after you get those clips out, you're going to want to pull it from this side. You're going to want to flip it out, flip it over. Because it's going to be kind of hooked in back here. So yes, you want to, there you go. Kind of just pops off. See how it's hooked in? There's a little hook here. So it hooks in under this. Yep. Just
something like that.
Yep. Alrighty. That's how you remove that. Now you want to do the switches. Switches are pretty easy to release. There's little prongs on the side. You just pry open and you lift out.
Right here.
Yep.
Does it snap?
Yeah, kind of. You just gotta. Yeah, you gotta kind of get both. It can be a little tedious. You just gotta keep the pressure up as you go to pull it out.
Oh, there it goes.
There's one. Oh, trick I found out. Put pressure on the button here as you're going to pop it loose. It's going to want to come back and snap back in when you go to pry this side out. So you got to kind of like counter pressure it so that the switch stays pushing out. Just like so. Alright, next we're going to show how to take apart the switch here and the door handle to prep this area for paint. Little pin on the bottom here. You want to push from the bottom side up. What I did is I used an Allen. Takes a little bit of pressure. Starts to push out. Normally you can grab it with your hand. If you need to, you can grab it with some pliers. Pull that pin out. The lock should just practically fall out, or you can push it from the back side. The spring, it's kind of hard to see. There's a little piece down here. So as you're pulling it out, you want to kind of pull it with the groove. You want to bend it down. If you see how the chrome at the top here, see how it's locked in there?
This one?
Yep, up here. So you got to pull it down. See how it's springing down like that? And then you got to pull it down, and you got to pull it out after you clear it from that. It's going to be pretty tight. Also, yeah, you gotta pull out at the same time too. Whoop! there went the spring. It's alright, put spring back in. There you go. Spring goes right back in. No problem. In the correct way it's supposed to go. Oh, I had it right the first time. There we are. Alright. So, we're going to prep this area for paint. Our goal is to get this area here painted the color that we want. Then we'll reassemble it, put it back in the door. Same thing with this piece here that we had. We're going to tape off these areas here to keep this black. And the door handle as well, to keep it black. We'll paint this one as well. Alrighty. Alrighty, so we taped off the pieces here. Tried to do the best we can. These can be extremely tedious. We use an X-Acto knife. This is some blue masking tape. We know it's not going to be perfect, little nitpicky stuff that we'll be able to see, but it should turn out pretty good. Took apart the door handles here, took the chrome out and the switch out. This one is to a 2020 passenger door panel. This is the switch to it, and this is the 2016. As you can tell, they're a little different. Not too much, but we went ahead and taped both of them off. This is the door handle of the 2020. Maria's painting the first coat to her door handle. We're doing the matte electric purple like we did with the shift bezel, and we're going to do a couple coats of this, and we'll see how it turns out. So I wanted to take a quick note on these door handles here. Because of the way they're shaped, and when you're spray painting, you really got to be careful on if you're going to be heavy on it, because it can pool up in these corners. What we tend to do is do very light coats with our blow dryer to cool it off. Then we do light coats with our spray paint as well. Try to get nice even coats in there so we don't get any pooling, which is turning out pretty great so far.
Right there.
So we're starting to do some coats on the door switch and handle area while this is drying. In between coats, we'll be switching back and forth. Alrighty. Pretty good so far.
See, it's purple.
Yeah. Looks very bluish on the camera. Looks really good. A couple more coats, we should be good. So these two pieces are done being painted. I'm just gonna let them dry. Found out the hard way on one of the door pieces here that if you don't let this dry, you try to prematurely put that door handle back in, you can gouge into your fresh paint there and make it look pretty nasty. But these turned out great. We're going to paint the 2020s now in the red, and we'll see how it turns out. So we'd like to make a note that when you're painting these, try to watch these edges to get in there really close, because it can be quite difficult to get all the paint in there. But it turned out pretty good for us so far. The red 2020s turned out pretty good. 2016 electric purple looks really good. Let these dry. Reassemble the switches and the door handles. Put them on the doors and we'll see how they look. I also want to make a note that you don't necessarily have to remove the switches. What we did is we just put some tape over on the 2020s. Realized it was quite a bit of a struggle trying to get those clips off. But if you want to remove them, you can. If you don't want to risk damaging, I guess, any of the electrical, any spray paint getting in there, but as long as you tape them off, you should be alright. Alrighty, soon we'll be putting it all together and installing it. Alrighty, so we got our pieces painted. We're gonna assemble them, see how it turns out. Just like we did in the video before, taking it apart. Is it snapped in there?
Mm-hmm. Sound like it.
Sorry, I wasn't even paying attention with the camera. There it goes. Alright. And then we're going to come from the outside, so we'll flip it over. Let me switch the spots, babe. Alright, now like we pointed out before, there's that little hook there. So you got to make sure that hook goes in underneath that. There we go. Should snap right on in. There we go. And we'll flip her over and put those 2 screws in. Oh, she's looking so nice already. Let's get those screws in and we'll look at the final thing after we get those 2 screws in.
Oh.
One here.
Thank you.
Here's some screw. All right. Let's see what it looks like. Nice. So I noticed that some of our clips are still in the door. Let me just come up behind it. Kind of pry it out. Again, use our plastic pry tool so you're not scratching anything. Then you find where it's at in the door. Slide it right back in there. Alrighty, so now we're going to connect the switches back. Replug the door handle so black is on the bottom and it fits right in that hole.
Where's it go? Is that right?
Let me see it. Just go right down in this hole. And then yeah, that's right. And then you push it into that black piece. Gotta make sure it's nice and, yep. There you go. Do the same thing with the lock, which should be above it. You might have to move the lock in order to get the hole.
Does it go? Oh, there we go.
Yep.
And how is it?
Yep. Good job. And then you're gonna want to make sure that this top piece here slides onto this channel before you snap anything on. So you're gonna come up from above. There it goes. And you'll just start pushing in the clips nice and easy. Some of them you give them a little pat. Some of them, that's good. All right, let's take a look at her. Looks pretty good. Love it. Love how it turned out. Some of the things we'll practice on is our taping, but it looks really good for our first time doing it. You can't really complain. Matches the shift bezel that we got going on there. Next is the driver's side, so that's how it originally looked. So far it's turning out pretty good. Alright, here's the 2020 door panel put on. Passenger side with the red. Excuse the mess. But we got the shift bezel and the driver's side. Not too bad. Looks really good. Give her a nice cleaning and she'll look even better. Alrighty.